Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another episode podcast to talk about our favorite team. Today, we're going to be doing another Behind the Enemy's Lines. And, of course, we got the 49ers this week, another divisional matchup for the Arizona Cardinals. I got one of my good friends coming on here. We'll be bringing them in here pretty soon, and we're going to try to get to know the 49ers as much as we possibly can and try to get to know our week 5 opponent, ladies and gentlemen. But let me give a huge shout out here to the sponsor of the video, BetUS. If you're looking for a brand new sportsbook, BetUS is the way to go. Currently, right now, if you use promo code YouTube150, they will be providing you a 150% sign up bonus on your first deposit, and those following 2 deposits, you will be getting 125% sign up bonus. That is going to be using promo code YouTube150 upon signing up. And of course, bet responsibly. And let's get started here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, let me go and bring up my guest here, Jesse from Last Second Sports. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Mike. Very happy to be here. And these division games, they could go crazy ways. I remember a few years ago when the 49ers were like dominating the division, and then we matched up with Colt frickin' McCoy and fumble after fumble happened for the 49ers offense. And it was a game where it was like Kyler was out. I think at the time, like Hopkins was out, a bunch of players. They had no chance in the game. And of course, the Cardinals won. So, I'm confident, but also cautious.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, right? I mean, obviously, the one game that we won in such a dominant fashion over the Rams, and I don't think anybody suspected that. Obviously, I was being very hopeful and blind to the fact that we're gonna finally get one, and then we did. So, like, you just never know what happens in these division games. So, I'm excited to obviously chop it up, and kind of figure out what's gonna happen. But let me ask you real quick: what are your thoughts on the Arizona Cardinals so far in 4 weeks that we've seen? What are your thoughts on Marvin and just the Cardinals in general?
Yeah, first of all, I think Marvin Harrison's a spectacular player. There was a lot made about, him not doing the camps and meeting with teams, and it's like there was just no reason. He knew where he was going. Arizona knew exactly who they were taking. If he had gotten there, he was going to go there. There was no reason for it. And also, before you sign a big deal or your rookie deal, there's things that have to be worked out. You have to be about your money. His career could end snap one into the NFL. And so people, made a big deal about the NFL licensing. It's like, man, let him and his dad figure that out. But as far as the player goes, he's absolutely fantastic. I know my bold prediction on the NFC West roundtable was he's not going to get to 1,000 yards. And that had less to do with him as a player. It was more like, first of all, it's a bold prediction. That's pretty bold.
True.
I don't think most people thought that. And, at the same time, though, I know he's a fantastic player and he's going to be a menace for years to come. Now, when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, I think they're pretty much exactly what I thought. I think I had them at like 6 wins coming into the season, but I said most of their games are going to be competitive. And usually you can tell when a team is going to be good the following year by if they were competitive the year before. So you may see a team that has a losing record, but if they're in a bunch of one-score games, that's usually a telltale sign that that team's about to be good the next year. And that was kind of my thought with the Cardinals was, hey, they're going to be in a lot of close games. They may only win 6, but you're going to look back on the season and Arizona Cardinal fans will be like, man, those 6 games really could have gone either way. We could have been a playoff team if you really break it down. And then the next year, they'll be fighting for a playoff spot. So they're pretty much exactly where I thought they would be.
Cool. Well, I appreciate the kind words here. Let's move on over to your San Francisco 49ers here. Right now, where the division stands, it's right here. We got the Seattle Seahawks at 3-1. We got you guys at 2-2. Us at 1-3. We got the Rams solo down there. No, I'm joking. We tie with the Rams. But how do you feel about where you guys are at right now? Because obviously, coming into the season, and here's the thing. Like, it's still we're getting to week 5, so it's not like it's like it's still attainable for you guys to do so. What is your or I guess, how are you feeling so far about your 2-2 49ers? Are they games that you're like, man, we should have got those wins? Especially, obviously, you lost to the Rams. But how are you feeling about your San Francisco 49ers heading into week 5?
It's interesting. It really is a week-to-week league. If you'd asked me last week, I would have been like, it's over. We're done. We just lost to the Rams. The Rams were terrible. There was no reason that should happen. But it's a division game. Really, and also what happens is week to week, you watch your previous opponents, and you either feel better about a win or loss or worse about a win or loss. So Minnesota, for example, losing to them in week 2 was like, dude, what are we doing? We can't beat the Minnesota Vikings. Well, just a week or 2 later, all of a sudden they're beating the Texans and then the Packers, and you're like, that's not really a bad loss. That's actually a really good team over there.
Right.
And then the Rams beat you, and it sucked in the moment. And it got even worse because they lost to the Bears. So that's really the game that kind of got away. The unfortunate thing is for the San Francisco 49ers is they are a team that is trying to win a Super Bowl this year. They're all in to do so. And the number one seed is extremely important. And I know that we can look at it and be like, oh, games early on don't matter. Well, they all count the same towards your record. And I'm looking at a Minnesota Vikings team, and if they are legit, the San Francisco 49ers not only have to go on a hot streak to end the year to pass the Minnesota Vikings amongst maybe other teams, but they have to have a better win-loss record than the Vikings because they lost to them, which means the Vikings have the tiebreaker. So, for example, 14 games left. If the Vikings go 9-5, that means the 49ers can only afford to lose 2 more games down the stretch,
Right.
man. They really can't lose anything. They have to go 12-2 just to be ahead of the Vikings, because if they go 11-3, great record down the stretch, but not good enough because the Vikings own the tiebreaker. So I feel fine with where they're at overall. I know that they're getting healthy and they're improving, and I expect them to kind of kick it into gear. But those early losses might come back to bite them as far as getting a number one seed in a bye week. And we know how crucial that bye week can be come playoff time.
It's just so fascinating. The NFL is just a crazy league. Who would have known, right? Sam Darnold, and it's just nuts. I would never thought the Vikings would be in the situation that they currently are. But kudos to them. Let me ask you about obviously your injuries. You guys had so many injuries starting off the season. You guys are getting healthy back again. What are the updates on Christian McCaffrey? I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday. If you guys don't know, every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Arizona time, we go live on Roundtable Sports on the NFC West side. So make sure you check that out. But the whole Christian McCaffrey thing, do you really think he might not play this year?
I think everything's a possibility. I mean, if I had to bet, I would say that he finds a way to get back on the field, but I don't know how long it's going to last. I mean,
Yeah.
so they talked about it being a calf. Now let's go back to the origin of this injury. The origin of this injury was actually the end of last year. I believe it was Washington. He hurt his calf. Now they had week 18. They basically rested everybody. Then they had the bye week, and he came back for the playoffs. He wasn't the same player. He was still very good, but he wasn't the same CMC. Then he had the whole off season. He gets into training camp, and a few practices in, he tweaks the calf. So we're thinking, oh, it's a calf injury. The plan is they were going to rest him for precautionary reasons, and he'll be ready week 1. Well, as they got closer to the regular season, a calf turned into an Achilles, and then he's on IR after almost going in week 1. And then week 4 of the season, he's flying to Germany. And oh, by the way, it's not one Achilles, it's both Achilles.
Oh my
So, dude,
god.
at this point, I don't know what to expect. It sounds like they're going to try to get him back after the bye week, which is not until I think November 10th or something like that against the Bucks. That's like week 10. So there's a myriad of possibilities here. He could come back after the bye week and be fine. He could rest for the whole season and not play the all season. I could really see any possibility happening here.
Crazy. All right. Well, let's
Hmm.
jump into Cardinals versus 49ers. How do you think this game is going to shake out? Obviously a division game. Do you see like what do you think you guys got to do to beat the Arizona Cardinals? And I'm not coming out here acting like, oh, we're a big dog. I'm just being honest. Like what
No,
do you
no,
think
no,
it's
no.
going to
Of
be
course,
to do to beat the
it's
Cardinals?
a Yeah, it's a like I said, it's a week to week league, and you can't take anybody lightly. I mean, we're seeing the craziest things happen. When you see Denver look dead for 2 weeks and then come out and beat the Bucks and the Jets in back to back weeks, like, all right, listen, anything's possible. Their quarterback threw for like 60 yards and they still won the game. It's insane. But yeah, as far as the Cardinals go, their offense is fully put together in my opinion. Cardinals can run the ball. If Kyler's dialed in, there's not many players that are better than him in the NFL. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks in all of the league. And I think the offensive line, despite some injuries, has actually held up decently.
Yeah.
And he's got some weapons to throw to. McBride, I assume, is going to be back. So offensively, I think the Cardinals are fine. And I think that offense can keep them in this game for a long stretch. Defensively, though, this is why I think the Cardinals were a year away from actually competing, because defensively, I just don't know how they generate a pass rush week to week. And I also know that you're struggling in the run game. I think they're giving up like 146 yards per game, which is tough, especially against a team like the 49ers who clearly want to run the ball and will
Right.
not stop running the ball. So for those reasons, I have to think that the 49ers are going to win. but it could be a tight one for sure. I'm going to pick the 49ers to pull away in the second half and kind of win this thing like 34-20. But it's one of those scores that you're going to look at it and be like, man, if the ball had bounced this way in the third quarter, instead of them being up 2 scores, we actually could have tied the game. So I
Right.
really think it's going to be one of those games. I think the Cardinals are going to hang around, but ultimately the 49ers talent should be enough to kind of push them over the top. And it also is nice that they're at home. I think that that's a big help here as well.
Yeah, the weird thing about the Arizona Cardinals this year is that, like, we're kinda seeing, like, a tale of, like, I don't know, just we don't really know exactly who they are or what they are. Defensively, we know, but it's so weird because we've seen some flashes from our defense, like, in the Lions game. Like, we held them to 20 points and didn't allow them to score in the second half. Like, that
Yeah.
game, I think, versus the Lions really shot up the amount of yardage that we were giving up in that year because, to be honest with you, with Kyron Williams, we actually did a really good job. Now, is that because of, what do they call him? Sean McPass, right? Because he does
Yeah.
sometimes forget about the run game, and we did a really good job against
Yeah.
Kyron. And then in the week before, obviously you can't really stop Josh Allen, especially with the defense that we have. But like we did a pretty decent job against James Cook. So like I think what the Cardinals are banking their buck on is the Cardinals need to score points. The offense needs to be the bright spot of this team, and what we saw in week 4, it was the complete polar opposite where we weren't able to, convert those third downs. And it was a mess. So I'm curious to figure out what's the mentality of this Arizona Cardinal team coming into week 5 because, we got beat. There's a lot of embarrassment. The coaching staff does not like what happened. Obviously, the fan base is pretty much split right now. You have a portion of fans saying, "Oh, Kyler's not the guy." They're waiting for the opportunity. And I'm pretty sure you got the same thing with obviously
Yeah.
Brock Purdy and what's currently going on over there. But it's a crazy time right now as an Arizona Cardinal fan, but it's exciting too because you never know what's going to happen. Are we going to turn it around? This is a perfect opportunity to do so. It would be a huge win if the Cardinals do so. But like I said, I'm not going to jump my horse. I do have you guys beating us, but I'm hoping and praying that it's just going to be a small margin, and hopefully we lose just by a touchdown because I cannot take another beat down. I'm not, cannot take another beat down. But let me ask you this, Jesse, real quick. You guys
Yeah.
have obviously paid Brandon Ayuk. What are your thoughts on Brandon Ayuk right now? And then we'll talk about Brock Purdy and what you guys think. Like, what's your plan to extend him? But Brandon Ayuk was a big storyline heading into the season. You guys finally paid him. There was this whole big thing with Charles Shanahan and Ayuk flinging his shorts about having the wrong color shorts. What are your thoughts on Brandon Ayuk's play right now, 4 games into the season?
Yeah, I don't think it's a secret that Brandon Ayuk certainly isn't living up to expectations, but the 49ers have to own some of this. And we talked about this all offseason, and the fact that the San Francisco 49ers do this. They wait on these contracts, and every single time it bites them in the butt. Deebo Samuel 2 years ago signed late. He wasn't up to snuff that year because naturally he doesn't want to get hurt before he signs, so he's not in the best of shape. Bosa, who everybody looks at as like a workout freak. If anybody's going to come in week 1 off the couch, it's Nick Bosa. Well, not exactly. Nick Bosa signed the week of the first game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And even he said, yeah, all last year I was just off. Not having training camp mattered. And then the 49ers want to do that again with Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk and just expect that things are going to be different. No, this is also on the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I think Brandon Ayuk, it's a little bit overblown at how bad he's playing. He's had a couple drops, which are frustrating. But when you go actually watch him, he's getting open a lot. Now, he can't throw himself the ball and he can't scheme himself the ball. It's not necessarily a Brock Purdy problem, but if the offense isn't calling for him to get the ball, then he's not going to get the ball either. All he can do is block well. He can catch the ball when it's thrown his way, which he needs to be better at that. And he can get open. He's getting open and he's blocking well, catching. He's made some tough catches. He's also had some pretty out of character drops. So he's been a little all over the place there, but he just needs more targets. And it also begs the question, the 49ers really never feature one player. Why would you give in and give this guy $30 million? I think that's a question that only the San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan can answer.
I mean, you guys also did draft a wide receiver with that that first round
Dude,
pick,
I
which
don't. Yeah.
obviously very unfortunate what happened here to Pearsall, but just a weird head scratching thing for the 49ers. But let's move on over to this last topic that I'm just so curious. Brock Purdy, right? Franchise
Yeah.
quarterback. It's been a big debate amongst you guys 49er fans. I think I've heard you being very positive about Brock Purdy as of late. What do you think is going to be like? He's going to get paid, right? That's going to
I
happen.
would I would assume so, yeah. It's interesting because in the community, you've got a lot of people that side with me, but I would say a lot more people that are frustrated with my take on Brock Purdy. Initially, when Brock Purdy was coming out, I actually had a third round grade on him. I was much higher than most. I was very excited that the San Francisco 49ers drafted him. My expectation, because at the time they had Trey Lance, and I was hoping that Trey Lance would turn into something, that Brock Purdy would be a long-term backup. Well, once Brock got his chance and he played and he played well, it's like, all right, this is, he's a good player. That much was clear. And so I've never disputed that he's a good player, but I don't think there's many franchise quarterbacks in the NFL. I think there's a lot of good quarterbacks. I think Dak's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I think
Sure.
Kirk, I've stood up for many, many years. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. Kyler's another one. So the list goes on and on. To me, there's 6, maybe 7 guys in a league at a time that are quote unquote franchise guys that you can give all the money in the world to, and you're going to remain competitive no matter what. I don't view Brock as that. I view Brock as a lower end top 10 guy, which is still a very, very good quarterback. I think he's still growing, so he can get better, and I'll have an open mind about it. But if it was up to me to give this man $60 million to keep this thing going, I don't know that I would give more than 3 or 4 guys $60 million and feel good
Fair.
about it. So it's not necessarily a Brock Purdy thing. It's just an NFL quarterback thing. And looking at the landscape, quarterbacks don't win when they get paid at this level. They just don't. And that's the historics of the league. Once the salary cap has been entered, it's just the reality of the situation. So, listen, if Brock Purdy is willing to take like 45 million, 40 million, I would pay him in a heartbeat, but that's not the reality of the situation.
Right.
Tua got
Market.
55 million, Love, Lawrence, all of them. He's going to get paid. And I don't see them not paying him. I also don't see them winning a Super Bowl when he's paid. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, like, I don't think people quite understand, like, they almost kinda feel like if you say he's not franchise, you're saying he's not good. That's not necessarily the case
Mhm.
because we kinda have this thing going around with our NFC West, roundtable with, when we put Geno Smith at the bottom, on the top 4
Right.
of the quarterbacks, everybody comes for our heads, but we're not necessarily saying he's a bad quarterback. We're just saying we would take these guys over them, but, like, at the end of the day, it's all opinions, so I'm just curious to figure out how you guys are gonna be able to do it because 'cause you're right. When somebody gets paid, especially the quarterback, that it takes away from a lot of the team that gets built around him. So I'm just so curious to figure out how that's going to work out because you guys have been paying a lot of people as of late. So let's see what happens. But Jesse, I absolutely appreciate you for jumping on. Just to recap, you do have the 49ers winning, right? In week 5. What was the
Yo.
score again?
30 to 20, 34 to 20.
All right, Jesse, appreciate you for jumping on. We will be having his channel linked in the description below, so go ahead and show him love over there. He does do what I do, obviously, for the San Francisco 49ers and his respective team. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be closing up shop right here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Another huge shout out to BetUS. Using promo code YouTube150 will provide you a 150% sign up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000. All right, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you for tuning in as always. Have a great rest of your day and go Cardinals.